Rain didn't just fall in South Seattle. It arrived like judgment, heavy and unrelenting, turning every sidewalk into a shallow, oily mirror that reflected the low, gray sky and the tired faces of people who had learned long ago not to look up for answers. Zara Harper, 10 years old, walked beneath it with her head slightly bowed, not from defeat but from habit. The hood of her oversized sweatshirt, faded navy, sleeves rolled 3 times, kept the worst of the water off her face, but nothing could stop the cold seeping through the thin soles of her sneakers. Her mother, Sophia, walked beside her, uniform still smelling faintly of bleach from the night shift she'd just finished at Innovacker's downtown tower. The company called today Family Innovation Day. Sophia called it mandatory unpaid overtime with better lighting. "Stay close, baby," Sophia murmured, voice low against the hiss of tires on wet asphalt. "We won't be long." Zara nodded without speaking. She never spoke much in places like this, places where the air smelled of money and new coffee instead of motor oil and yesterday's dinner. Her backpack bumped against her spine, heavy with Grandpa Theo's toolkit. Cracked stethoscope, small driver set, 3 leather journals bound with rubber bands, pages filled with his careful block printing and sketches of locks that had guarded secrets for decades. Theo Harper had been a black locksmith in Seattle for 52 years. He'd opened vaults for banks that wouldn't hire him, safes in government buildings that never acknowledged his name, and once, a story he told only when Zara was very quiet, a Cold War-era bunker beneath the city whose combination he'd felt rather than calculated. "Metal don't care about your skin or your address," he used to say, hands steady on a dial while ferry horns moaned across Elliott Bay. "It just tells the truth. You gotta be quiet enough to hear it." He died 2 winters ago. Stroke, no warning. Just a Tuesday afternoon in their cramped garage apartment, tools still spread across the bench like he'd step back in any minute. Zara had found him. She'd called 911, held his hand until the paramedics arrived, and kept holding it even after they said there was nothing left to hold. The journals were all that remained, 12 volumes of observation, physics, resistance curves, and 1 repeated line written in the margins of every book. "Never walk away from a locked thing that needs opening." They reached the glass doors of Innovacker Tower. A security guard glanced at Sophia's badge, then at Zara, lingering on the oil stain on her cuff, the way her jeans sagged at the knees from too many washes. He waved them through without a word. Inside, the atrium felt like another planet. Marble floors gleamed under recessed lighting. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the restless gray of Puget Sound. 500 people filled the space. Executives in tailored wool, children in clean sneakers, photographers circling like polite sharks. The air smelled of expensive cologne, fresh pastries, and the faint metallic hum of robotics demos. Zara shrank against her mother's side. Sophia squeezed her hand once, hard, then let go to find her station near the cleaning carts. Zara found a corner near a display pedestal. She unzipped the backpack, laid out the stethoscope. A sleek X-Harmony robot sat on the pedestal, arm frozen mid-gesture, red diagnostic light blinking. Someone had tried to demo it during the morning keynote and failed. Zara's fingers itched. She glanced around, no one watching, then knelt. The elbow joint had slipped its servo pin. Simple, 30 seconds with the right torque. She worked quickly, oil from her hands leaving faint prints on the chrome. When she finished, the arm completed its arc smoothly. She stepped back, satisfied. That was when Elias Fitzgerald noticed her. He stood center stage, microphone in hand, charcoal suit sharp enough to cut glass. 52 years old, white, billionaire, face known from magazine covers and late-night cable rants about disruptive innovation. He'd been mid-sentence about diversity and opportunity when his eyes landed on the small black girl wiping grease from her fingers onto already stained jeans. The room hushed as he raised the mic again. "Well, well," Fitzgerald said, voice carrying through every speaker in the atrium. "Looks like we have an unauthorized technician at work." Laughter rippled, uncertain at first, then bolder. Phones lifted. "Come on up here, sweetheart. Let's get a better look." Zara froze. Sophia appeared from the side, face tight with dread. "Mr. Fitzgerald, she's just janitor's kid," Fitzgerald cut in, smile wide and cold. "Perfect. Exactly the kind of diversity photo op we need." He gestured grandly. "Everyone, meet our young guest, dirty little ghetto girl who smells like motor oil and failure. Haven't showered in a week, have we?" The laughter sharpened, ugly, eager. Cameras flashed. Zara felt heat flood her face, the word ghetto landing like a slap, carrying every layered insult she'd ever heard whispered behind hands or shouted from passing cars. She was black, poor, smelled like the garage because she'd rather fix things than pretend she belonged somewhere else. And now 500 people were laughing at it. Sophia stepped forward, voice shaking. "That's enough." Fitzgerald ignored her. He pointed behind him to the obsidian sentinel, the vault. 9 feet of matte black titanium, emerald neural interface pulsing slow and hypnotic. Innovacker's crown jewel. "See that? 4 years, 50 of the best engineers in the country. Not one could open it. But maybe the projects breed a special kind of clever, right?" He crouched, eye level with Zara, smile never wavering. "Here's the deal, little girl. Crack my vault in the next 60 minutes. No computers, no help, just whatever junk you brought in that sad backpack. And I'll write you a check for $100 million. Cash. Get you and your mama out of whatever Section 8 hole you crawled out of. Maybe even buy a bar of soap." The atrium exploded. Gasps, nervous chuckles, a few people shifting uncomfortably. Someone muttered, "That's too far." Fitzgerald's eyes gleamed with something darker than amusement. The IPO was 10 days away. Inside the vault sat proprietary neural net designs worth $4 billion. Auditors needed access. The lock had failed every attempt. This, pure theater. Humiliate the poor black child on live stream, distract from the ticking clock, spin the optics later as inspiring STEM moment for underserved youth. Zara stared up at him. Rain tapped the towering windows like impatient fingers. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She thought of Theo's last clear words in the hospital, voice weak but certain. "Metal never lies, Zara girl, people do. But if you listen close enough, the truth clicks." She swallowed once. "I'll try." The words left her mouth soft, steady. Fitzgerald blinked, genuine surprise flickering before the mask snapped back. Then he laughed, loud and theatrical. "We have a volunteer, ladies and gentlemen." He turned to the crowd. 60 minutes starting now. Someone start the clock and get the live feed rolling, TechCrunch, Bloomberg, everybody. This is going to be viral. A digital timer appeared on the massive wall screen, 60 o'clock. Viewer count began climbing, 15,000, 25,000. Sophia reached Zara, tears already shining. "Baby, we can leave. Right now." Zara looked at her mother, calloused hands, tired eyes, uniform still damp from the rain. Then she looked at the vault. Emerald light flickered across her face. "I want to try, Mom." Sophia's shoulders sagged. She knew that look. The same stubborn focus Theo used to wear when a lock refused to yield. Fitzgerald clapped once, sharp. "Excellent. No tools except what she's got. No phones, no help. Let's see what poverty and pluck can do." Zara walked to the vault, set her backpack down. The atrium quieted, anticipation thick as the fog rolling in off the sound. She knelt. Pressed Grandpa Theo's stethoscope to the cold titanium, not on the glowing interface where everyone expected, but lower against the unremarkable base plate. Closed her eyes, listened. The metal hummed, faint. Wrong. Something inside wasn't telling the truth. Zara knelt before the obsidian sentinel, the vault's cold titanium base pressing against her knees through thin jeans. The atrium lights reflected off the black surface in thin, distorted streaks, making the metal look like liquid night. She kept the stethoscope pressed firmly to the lower panel. Not the pulsing emerald neural interface everyone stared at, but the unremarkable steel just above the floor trim. The rubber tubing carried a low, uneven vibration up to her ears. Gritty, reluctant, not the clean binary tick of quantum encryption she'd read about in the patent PDFs on her cracked phone screen last week. This was older. Mechanical, like the debuled safe Grandpa Theo had let her practice on in their garage while rain drummed the tin roof and fairy horns moaned across the sound. She opened her eyes, traced the thick black power conduit snaking from the emerald panel down the vault's side, disappearing behind a slim decorative strip. Followed it with her gaze to the floor outlet, industrial gray, half hidden. Label, K-9. Her stomach tightened. The patent screenshot she'd saved 3 nights ago clearly listed auxiliary feed as K-7. 20 extra volts, 240 instead of 220. Enough to make the quantum layer jitter at 32.035.0 Hz, creating electromagnetic interference that would mask the mechanical lock beneath like static drowning out a whisper. Minute 12 on the clock. She stood slowly, turned to the engineer standing closest, Alex Kim, 32, dark hair still damp from the rain outside, arms folded but eyes curious rather than hostile. He'd been one of the few not laughing earlier. "Excuse me, sir," Zara said. Her voice came out small but clear over the murmur of the crowd. "When was this outlet last changed?" Alex blinked. "Why do you ask that?" "Because it's labeled K-9. The system schematic requires K-7. That mismatch creates M noise, jitter around 340 Hz. It destabilizes the quantum shell. A ripple of murmurs spread. Phones angled closer. Viewer count jumped. 68,000. 75,000. Kyle Reed pushed forward, 40 broad shoulders, face already flushing red. Lead engineer. The man who'd spent 4 years failing to open this vault and had swapped the outlet himself 2 weeks earlier, thinking a small delay would make him indispensable before the audit. Kid, you're reading too much into a label. You don't even know what a quantum interface does. Zara didn't look at him. She pulled her phone from her pocket, thumbed to the saved PDF of Innovacker's 2019 patent filing. Page 62, footnote 8, failsafe mechanism. Classical progressive resistance tumbler model K-7 Manhattan Project era backup. She held the screen toward Alex. See, it's documented. Alex leaned in, Reed, his brow furrowed. That's accurate. Kyle laughed, short, sharp, mean. Doesn't prove anything. The neural interface is primary. You're just an uneducated black kid playing with toys. The word uneducated landed heavier than the earlier slurs. It wasn't shouted, it was stated like fact. Several engineers nodded. A few looked away. Zara felt heat crawl up her neck, but she kept her eyes on the outlet. She'd heard worse on the playground, in the halls at school, from teachers who assumed she couldn't read the board without moving her lips. She'd learned early, words like that only hurt if you let them stop you. Minute 18. Fitzgerald lounged in a director's chair now, legs crossed, scrolling his phone with theatrical boredom. Let her speculate. It's adorable. Zara ignored him. She pointed at the faint scorch ring around the outlet prongs, dark, fresh. Someone swapped it on purpose. The extra voltage overloads the auxiliary buffer, makes the quantum panel flicker when touched. Real quantum systems don't flicker. They're stable or collapsed. Flickering means interference. The crowd leaned closer. Comments scrolled on the live feed. She's actually making sense. This is rigged. Poor kid getting humiliated. Wait, is she right? At minute 22, the side doors swung open. Dr. Miriam Voss stepped through. 68 years old. Silver hair pulled into a low knot, navy wool coat beaded with rain. She had been watching the live stream from her Capitol Hill apartment, tea gone cold on the table beside her laptop. Drove straight downtown through sheets of water. She walked directly to Fitzgerald. Elias, he rose quickly, smile faltering for the first time. Miriam, this is unexpected. I licensed you the encryption core 12 years ago. Her voice carried without effort, clear, precise, the tone of someone who had taught graduate seminars for 40 years and never once raised her volume to be heard. And I remember telling you exactly once, never weaponize brilliance against the vulnerable. Fitzgerald spread his hands. Just a bit of harmless theater, Miriam, good PR. Cruelty disguised as entertainment, she corrected flatly. She turned to Zara, studied the girl, patched jeans, oil-stained hoodie, steady dark eyes that didn't flinch. What's your name? Zara Harper, ma'am. Miriam nodded once, as if confirming something to herself. May I observe your work? Zara hesitated half a second, then nodded. Miriam knelt beside her without ceremony, examined the outlet, noted the scorch marks. Her mouth tightened into a thin line. Elias, she didn't raise her voice. This feed was swapped, intentionally. K-9 pulls 240 volts. Your auxiliary circuit is spexed for 220. That is not maintenance error, that is sabotage. Kyle's face went gray. Fitzgerald's gaze flicked to his lead engineer, brief, lethal, then away. Speculation, he said tightly. Miriam reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a slim black device no bigger than a car fob, frequency analyzer. Custom built in her home lab years ago. Here, she placed it in Zara's palm. Real-time electromagnetic signature reader. Consider it on permanent loan to a fellow engineer. Zara's fingers closed around the cool metal. Thank you, ma'am. Miriam's voice dropped softer just for Zara. You already noticed what 50 credentialed minds overlooked. Now let the physics speak. The wall timer glowed, 4103 remaining. Zara slipped the analyzer over her ear like an earpiece. Tiny OLED screen flickered green. She stepped to the emerald panel, pressed it 4 times, quick, deliberate taps. The interface stuttered once, twice, then went dark, completely black. A collective gasp rolled through the room. Kyle barked, "What the hell did you just do?" Overloaded the buffer, Zara answered quietly. The extra voltage couldn't sustain the rapid current spikes. It tripped the safeguard shutdown. She dropped to her knees again, fitted the smallest screwdriver from her pack, removed 4 flush bolts along the base trim. The panel popped free with a soft click. Behind it, a circular brass dial. Tarnished, heavy, progressive tumbler. Model K-7 etched faintly into the metal. Miriam exhaled slowly. My God, Elias, you actually buried a Manhattan Project Terra mechanical failsafe under all that theater. Fitzgerald said nothing. His knuckles were white on the armrest. Zara lifted Grandpa Theo's stethoscope again, pressed it just above the dial. The atrium audio system captured the sound, soft metallic clicks, rising tension in the resistance. The room fell completely silent except for the faint hum of the building's HVAC and the rain against the glass. Zara placed both hands on the dial, began to turn, very slowly. Listening, minute 38, the first tumbler caught at 14. A faint drop in tension, barely there. Then the dial stiffened again, harder. She braced her sneakers against the marble, leaned her small weight into it. The speakers broadcast every sound. Click, grind, pause, click. Viewer count surged past 180,000. Comments flooded, she's doing it. This is insane. That child just exposed sabotage on live TV. Kyle paced behind them, arms crossed so tight the seams strained. He'd swapped the outlet himself, small sabotage to buy time to make himself the hero who discovered a fix before the audit deadline. Now the girl was turning his sabotage into her solution. Fitzgerald sat rigid, smile gone, eyes fixed on the dial like it might bite him. Zara reached the second number, 31. Resistance spiked, sharp, almost angry. Her arms trembled. Sweat beaded along her hairline, cool in the air-conditioned chill. She eased off pressure for half a second, felt the micro shift. The whisper Theo always talked about, adjusted her grip. Turned again, click. The sound echoed through the speakers like a dropped coin in an empty hall. Gasps rippled outward. Jamal, pressed against Sophia's leg near the front, whispered, "She's winning, Mom." Sophia's hand covered her mouth. Tears tracked silent down her cheeks. She hadn't let go of Miriam's coat sleeve since the professor arrived. Minute 45, 7 minutes left. Zara's breaths came shallow. The dial now required both hands and her full body lean. Third number. She listened for the frequency shift Theo's journals had mapped, each correct alignment dropping the pitch by a predictable interval. 3120 hertz on the analyzer in her ear. Then 3280. Rising, the resistance crested. She had to brace one foot against the vault base. Turned, nothing. She released, waited, felt the metal settle, adjusted angle by a hair. Turned again, clunk, third tumbler dropped home, the crowd exhaled as one. Alex Kim stepped closer, voice low. How many numbers total? 5, Zara said. She didn't look up. Her world had narrowed to the dial, the sounds, the feel of metal under her fingers. Fitzgerald stood, walked to the edge of the stage. Time check. An aide called out, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Fitzgerald's jaw worked. He glanced at Kyle. Something wordless passed between them, accusation, fear. Zara ignored it all, fourth number. The resistance now felt like turning a wrench against frozen threads. Her shoulders burned, palms slick. She wiped them on her jeans one at a time. Gripped again, turned. The clicks came slower, deeper. The analyzer spiked 3450 hertz. She paused, remembered Theo's voice in the dim garage light. When it screams loudest, that's when it's telling you the truth. She leaned in harder, turned through the pain. Click, fourth tumbler. The room erupted short, stunned cheers before silence clamped down again. 2 minutes left, one number to go. Zara's arms shook violently now. She locked her elbows, breath through her mouth. The final tumbler would be the worst, peak resistance designed to break resolve. She placed the stethoscope back, closed her eyes, turned. The metal groaned. Resistance climbed in a smooth, brutal curve. 3620 hertz, 3710. Her vision blurred at the edges. She thought of Sophia's hands, red and cracked from bleach. Jamal's hopeful face. Grandpa's journals stacked on the kitchen table like a promise kept. She pushed. The dial refused. She eased off a fraction. Felt the telltale vibration, the whisper beneath the roar, adjusted, turned with everything left. The final click rang out, deep, resonant final. A heavy internal thunk vibrated through the floor. The vault door eased open an inch. Smooth, silent, perfect engineering from another era. Zara stumbled back, sat hard on the marble. Chest heaving, for 3 full seconds no one moved. Then the atrium exploded. People surged forward, applause crashed like waves on the sound. Phones flashed, screams of disbelief and joy. Sophia ran, dropped to her knees. Pulled Zara into her arms so tight the girl could barely breathe. "You did it, baby, you did it." Zara buried her face in her mother's shoulder. Tears came hot and sudden. Miriam Lang stood slowly, looked inside the vault first. 3 server racks, blueprints, data drives. Then her gaze dropped to the floor of the open compartment, a small steel lockbox, separate, labeled in faded marker, original schematics 2011. She reached in carefully, lifted it, turned it over. Engraved on the bottom, small but clear, T. Harper and E. Fitzgerald prototype co-design. Miriam's eyes met Fitzgerald's across the open vault door. He went pale. The vault door stood open an inch, a thin black line against the emerald glow that had died minutes earlier. Cool, dry air seeped out, metallic, faintly ozone-scented, like the inside of an old server room after a power surge. Zara remained seated on the marble, legs splayed, chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. Her arms hung limp at her sides, palms red and stinging from the final turn. Sweat cooled on her forehead, mixing with the tracks of tears she hadn't noticed falling. The atrium lights caught them, turning each droplet into a tiny prism. Sophia knelt beside her, arms wrapped tight, rocking gently as if Zara were still a toddler waking from a nightmare. "You did it," Sophia whispered over and over, voice cracking on every syllable. "My baby did it." Jamal pressed against them both, small hands clutching Zara's hoodie, eyes wide with something between awe and fear. He'd never seen his big sister cry, not like this, not in front of strangers. The applause crashed again, louder this time, ragged with disbelief. Phones stayed raised. The live feed viewer count crossed 400,000 and kept climbing. Comments blurred across screens in a dozen languages. She just saved their IPO, that billionaire's face, priceless. "This is the best thing I've ever seen live." They called her Ghetto trash. Look at her now. Miriam Lang remained standing near the open vault. She did not cheer. She simply looked inside, first at the server racks humming softly, then at the blueprints stacked neatly on a lower shelf, then at the small steel lockbox resting on the floor like an afterthought. She reached in with careful hands, lifted it. The box was heavy for its size, cold steel, no larger than a shoebox. A simple 3-digit combination lock secured the hasp. Label in faded marker. Original prototypes 2011. Engraved on the bottom, small but unmistakable, T. Harper and E. Fitzgerald co-design. Seattle, WA. Miriam turned the box slowly so the engraving caught the overhead lights. She looked across the open vault door at Elias Fitzgerald. He had not moved. His face had drained of color, gone from flushed arrogance to something closer to ash. The smile was gone. The theatrical posture collapsed. For the first time in the hour, he looked small. "That's classified," he said, voice low, almost pleading. "Historical notes, nothing material to the audit." Miriam did not raise her voice. She addressed the SEC auditor instead. Gray suit, clipboard, standing quietly near the stage edge since the timer had started. "Per the audit protocol, any contents of the secured vault are subject to verification if opened under challenge. This box is inside the vault. It's part of the record now." The auditor adjusted his glasses, nodded once. "Correct, open it, please." Fitzgerald's hand twitched toward the box, then fell back. He glanced at his lawyer, thin man in an expensive suit, who had materialized from the crowd like a shadow. The lawyer whispered urgently. Fitzgerald shook his head. "No." Miriam set the box on a nearby display table. Simple master lock. "Jim Locker cheap." She looked at Zara, still cradled in Sophia's arms, breathing steadying now. "Zara," Miriam said softly, "would you like to finish what you started?" Zara lifted her head, eyes red-rimmed but steady. She pushed up slowly. Legs shaky, walked to the table. The lock felt light after the vault's weight. She pressed her ear to the side, listened to the faint tumblers shift with each spin. Right to 19, left past 12 once, stop at 7. Right to 28, click. The hasp popped open. Inside, USB drives sealed in plastic, a slim stack of printed schematics. 3 handwritten notebooks, Theo's unmistakable block printing on the top one. Zara reached for the first page. Miriam gently caught her wrist. "Wait!" She lifted the top schematic herself, unfolded it carefully. Neural architecture diagram, Innovacker's flagship AI routing system, the one that had made Fitzgerald's first billion. At the bottom right corner, lead, T. Harper. Co-design, E. Fitzgerald. March 15, 2011. Miriam's voice stayed even, but something cracked beneath it. "Elias, you and Theo Harper interned together at UW's Applied Robotics Lab. Summer of 2010 into spring 2011. Theo was 38. You were 26. He taught you how to trace current bleed, how to listen to servos when they fought back. You took his notes, his layouts. Then you told the department head Theo's contributions were minor, unoriginal, too urban for our patent strategy. Theo was let go quietly, no credit, no share. You filed under your name alone 6 months later." The room had gone funeral quiet. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. Fitzgerald swallowed. "That was 15 years ago, settled, NDAs signed." Miriam unfolded another page. An email printout from Fitzgerald to University Council, dated April 3, 2011, requesting removal of T. Harper from co-inventor list due to insufficient contribution. Background does not align with brand image for investors, proceeding with provisional filing under sole name. She looked up. NDAs don't cover documents kept in your personal vault, and they don't erase what's already public record if challenged. Kyle Reed backed up a step, face slick with sweat. He'd known about the box, not the details, just that Fitzgerald kept insurance. The auditor wrote furiously, "Mr. Fitzgerald, these materials directly impact valuation and patent integrity. If the core IP was co-developed without proper attribution." "It was collaborative," Fitzgerald cut in, voice rising for the first time. "We were equals, he walked away, I stayed, I built the company." Miriam set the papers down very gently. "You didn't just walk away from credit, you erased him. Theo Harper died believing he'd failed his family. That his mind wasn't enough. His daughter," she nodded toward Sophia, "cleaned your floors to keep food on the table. His granddaughter just opened the vault you couldn't, using the very lessons you stole." Sophia stood, still holding Zara's hand. Her voice came out hoarse. "You knew my dad?" Fitzgerald met her eyes. For the first time, something flickered there, regret maybe, or just the math of consequences catching up. "I knew him," he said, quiet. "We were friends, once." Zara looked at the schematic in Miriam's hand, traced the lines her grandfather had drawn, felt the paper under her fingertips, same weight as Theo's old journals on the kitchen table. She spoke for the first time since the vault opened, voice small, but clear. "He never told me he worked here, he just said, some people take more than they give back. And the metal remembers." The live stream hit 620,000 viewers. The clip of Fitzgerald's face when Miriam read the engraving was already clipping, spreading like fire on dry grass. The auditor cleared his throat. "I'm formally noting this discovery. Full forensic review required before IPO proceeds. Mr. Fitzgerald will need to speak with legal." Fitzgerald nodded once. Numb, Miriam turned to Zara, kneeled to her level. "You didn't just open a vault today, you opened a door your grandfather never could." Zara looked up at her, tears still wet on her cheeks. "I just listened." Miriam smiled, small, real. "That's more than most ever do." Outside, rain kept falling on Seattle, steady, unstoppable. Inside, the truth kept spreading, but the moment wasn't over. Fitzgerald stepped forward, slow, deliberate. The crowd parted. No one stopped him. He stopped a respectful distance from Zara and Sophia. Voice low enough the nearest mics didn't catch it clearly, but the live feed picked up enough. "Zara!" She looked up. No fear, just quiet waiting. "I knew your grandfather, better than I let on. We were close once. He taught me more than any professor ever did. I was young, hungry. I told myself the company needed speed. That credit was just paperwork." He swallowed. "I was wrong." He looked at Sophia. "I'm sorry to you, to your daughter, to him." The words hung there, small against the scale of what he'd taken. Sophia's eyes filled again, but she didn't speak. Zara studied him. The rain outside had eased to a drizzle. Streetlights reflected in puddles like scattered coins. "Did you ever tell him you were sorry?" she asked. Fitzgerald looked away, toward the open vault. "No, I thought time would fix it." "It didn't." He met her eyes again. "I'm sorry, truly." Zara nodded once, not acceptance, acknowledgement. Sophia spoke then, voice steady. "We don't need your sorry now, we need the truth filed, properly." Fitzgerald nodded. "I'll instruct legal to cooperate fully. No more NDAs, no redactions." The auditor cleared his throat again. "Mr. Fitzgerald, the board has requested an emergency meeting tonight. Your presence is expected." Fitzgerald exhaled, long, tired. "I'll be there." He turned to leave, paused, looked back at Zara. "You didn't just open a vault, you reminded me what I buried." He walked away, shoulders lower than when he'd entered the atrium that morning. Miriam helped Zara to her feet. "You're exhausted, let me drive you home." Sophia gathered Jamal, still wide-eyed. They moved toward the elevators. The live stream had ended. But the clips were everywhere now. Outside, the city smelled of wet asphalt and salt from the sound. Fairy horns carried in the distance, low, steady like a lullaby. In the car, Zara leaned against the window. Watched rain trace paths down the glass. Miriam glanced in the rearview. "You kept your promise to him today." Zara's voice came soft. "I think he kept his to me first." The car merged onto the wet highway, headlights cutting through the dark. The Innovacker boardroom on the 42nd floor overlooked Elliott Bay at dawn. The water lay flat and silver under a sky still bruised from the night's rain. Inside, the long glass table reflected 8 faces, directors in rumpled suits, coffee cups untouched, eyes red from lack of sleep. Stacks of documents lay in front of each chair. Theo Harper's decrypted archive, patent side-by-sides, the forged release form, Fitzgerald's old emails, the offshore account ledgers showing millions funneled through Cayman shells over 15 years. All of it forwarded by Miriam Lang at 2:17 m. Elias Fitzgerald sat at the head of the table, alone on his side. Suit still sharp from yesterday, but the man inside looked hollowed out, shadows under his eyes. Hands folded too tightly. Dr. Elena Vasquez, chairwoman, 61, former venture partner with a reputation for surgical decisions, entered last. She placed her tablet down, did not sit. Elias, he looked up, no greeting. Just the name. We've reviewed everything Dr. Lang provided overnight, Elena said, including the video archive from Theo Harper, the co-inventor credit removal, the forged release, the emails referencing urban background as a liability for investor perception, the tax avoidance structures benefiting only senior white executives. The material fraud in our patent portfolio is undeniable. A director, older man, silver hair, quiet voice, leaned forward. The IPO is 10 days away. If this leaks wider than it already has, and it's already everywhere the offering dies, SEC halts trading, class actions, criminal referral almost certain. Fitzgerald exhaled through his nose. I understand the exposure. Miriam Lang walked in behind Elena, carried only a single slim folder, took the seat opposite Fitzgerald, met his gaze level. Elena continued. The board has discussed options. Resignation is the floor. We are prepared to offer Theo Harper posthumous co-inventor credit on all affected patents. Retroactive licensing revenue share to his estate. Full cooperation with USPTO re-examination and any SEC or IRS inquiry. Fitzgerald looked at the folder in Miriam's hands. His estate goes to Sophia Harper and Zara. Elena nodded once. Yes, silence stretched. The bay outside turned pink at the edges, sunrise bleeding through clouds. Fitzgerald pushed back his chair, stood. I resign. Effective immediately. No drama, no fight, just the soft scrape of chair legs on carpet. He looked at Miriam. Tell Zara I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner. Miriam's expression did not soften, but she nodded once. Fitzgerald walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. I built something real here, he said, even if I started it wrong. Elena's voice followed him. You built it on someone else's foundation. That matters. The door closed behind him. In the quiet that followed, Elena turned to Miriam. We'd like your input on next steps, interim leadership, IP remediation, and the girl. Miriam considered. Zara needs normalcy first. School, rest, but she deserves to see her grandfather's name restored, publicly. Elena nodded. We'll issue a statement by noon. Fitzgerald's resignation voluntary to pursue personal interests. Simultaneous announcement. Innovacker honors Theo Harper's foundational contributions. Retroactive recognition. And a scholarship fund in his name, starting with a trust for Zara and Jamal Harper. Miriam allowed a small, tired smile. That's a beginning. Back in South Seattle, Zara woke on the couch in their small apartment. Blanket tucked around her. Sunlight slanted through the blinds, rare clear morning after days of rain. Sophia sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, reading. Zara padded over, bare feet on cool linoleum. What's happening, Mom? Sophia looked up, eyes bright. Fitzgerald resigned. They're putting Grandpa's name on the patents, backdated, and there's a fund for school for us. Zara sat beside her, processed it slowly. Does that mean we don't have to worry so much? Sophia pulled her close. It means we can breathe. Jamal wandered in, rubbing his eyes. Is Zara famous now? Zara laughed, small, surprised sound. Maybe a little. Outside, the neighborhood stirred. Ferry horns carried across the water, steady, familiar. Miriam's car pulled up an hour later. She knocked softly. Sophia let her in. Miriam carried a small wooden box. Theo's old toolkit cleaned, polished. Inside, his favorite stethoscope restored. For your workshop, Miriam said, wherever that ends up being. Zara took the box, fingers tracing the worn leather handle. Thank you, Miriam knelt. You changed more than a company today. You changed how people see what's possible. Zara looked at her. I just wanted to keep my promise. Miriam's eyes softened. And you did. The morning light caught dust motes in the air, like tiny stars, but the day wasn't finished. By noon, Innovacker issued the press release. Fitzgerald's resignation. Theo Harper's credit restored. The scholarship fund seeded with an initial $2.5 million from redirected executive bonuses. The statement was careful, legal language, but the subtext was unmistakable. The company acknowledged past wrongs and committed to change. The clips kept spreading. The moment Fitzgerald's face collapsed when Miriam read the engraving. The 60-minute timer ticking down while a 10-year-old black girl from South Seattle listened to metal instead of fear. The final click. The vault door swinging open. Hashtags trended globally. Number Vault Whisper, number Theo Harper, number Listen to the Truth, number Innovacker exposed millions of views. Millions of shares. Comments flooded. They mocked her. She saved them. This is what happens when you underestimate black girls. Rewatch minute 2, his arrogance crumbling. Share if someone ever told you you're too small. In the apartment that afternoon, Sophia received an email from Innovacker HR. Promotion to facilities coordinator. Day shift. Full benefits. Salary increase enough to cover rent, groceries, and a little extra for the first time in years. No more nights. Sophia sat on the couch, read it twice, then cried quiet, relieved tears. Zara hugged her. Jamal climbed between them. For the first time in forever, the apartment felt less like a place to survive and more like a place to live. That evening, Miriam returned. Brought printouts of the USPTO preliminary notice, co-inventor credit official, retroactive. Royalties would flow quarterly, modest by corporate standards, life-changing for one family. Zara sat at the kitchen table, Theo's journals open. She traced the line he'd written so many times. Never walk away from a locked thing that needs opening. She looked up at her mother. We're going to be okay, Sophia smiled through tears. We already are. Miriam watched them, then spoke softly. There's one more thing. The board approved a memorial lab in the old Innovacker Annex in Georgetown. Renovated, tools, scholarships for 25 kids to start. Ages 8 to 17, diverse, curious like you. Zara's eyes widened. And they want you to help teach when you're ready. Zara looked at the journals, then at her mother, then at Miriam. I think Grandpa would like that. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky cleared enough to show stars rare in Seattle. Fairy horns carried on the breeze, low, steady, like a promise kept. 6 months had passed since the vault opened, and Seattle had moved through winter into a tentative spring. Rain still fell most days, soft now, less punishing, but the city felt subtly different to Zara Harper. The apartment in South Seattle no longer smelled of worry. The fridge stayed full. Sophia's uniform hung in the closet only for special occasions. Her new facilities coordinator role at the Theo Harper Memorial Engineering Lab meant day shifts, benefits, and evenings at home. Jamal, now 9, had his own small toolkit, plastic-handled screwdrivers, a kid-sized multimeter, and spent afternoons following Zara around the lab like a shadow with questions. The lab itself occupied the renovated annex of the old Innovacker campus in Georgetown. Brick walls sandblasted clean, new windows letting in slanted light. Workbenches of sturdy maple lined the space, pegboards holding tools that gleamed under LED strips. A glass case in the corner displayed Theo's original stethoscope, brass chest piece polished to a soft glow, and the USB drive containing his archived footage, now part of the permanent exhibit. Above the door, a simple sign. Theo Harper Memorial Engineering Lab. No corporate logo, no billionaire name, just his. 25 kids filled the room on opening day, ages 8 to 17, every background imaginable. Black, brown, white, Asian, indigenous. Some from foster homes, some from single-parent apartments like Zara's used to be. All on full scholarships, tools, books, bus passes, even snacks. They sat cross-legged on the floor in a loose circle while Zara stood at the center bench. She was 11 now, still small, still quiet. But the way she moved had changed, deliberate, sure, no more shrinking. She held Theo's stethoscope in both hands like a talisman. Today, she said, voice carrying without effort, we start with listening. She placed the chest piece against a simple training safe, 3-number mechanical combination, brass dial tarnished just enough to feel real. Closed her eyes, turned the dial slowly, the room hushed. The faint clicks came through a small speaker she'd wired to the bench, soft metallic kisses, rising resistance. She opened her eyes. Look at my hands, not the numbers, the resistance. Feel how it changes. First number's easy, then it fights back. That fight means you're close. She demonstrated the full sequence. Slow, deliberate. The safe popped open at 14 minutes 31 minutes 7. Kids leaned in. A 13-year-old boy with glasses whispered, "That's math. It's a pattern." Zara smiled, small, real. Exactly, patterns in resistance, in sound, in how things fit together. Grandpa called it progressive tumbler logic. Most people quit when it gets harder, but harder is the signal. She handed the stethoscope to Amara, 9, braids tight, bright sneakers. Try. Amara stepped up. Fingers trembling a little, pressed the disc to the door, turned. Nothing at first, then a faint click, her face lit. I heard it, Zara nodded. That's truth talking. The morning unfolded in small groups. Kids rotated stations, basic lock-picking practice, simple circuit builds, listening to motor hums with borrowed frequency analyzers. Zara moved between them, correcting grips, asking questions, never giving answers outright. Sophia watched from the doorway, arms folded, quiet pride in her eyes. Miriam arrived at noon with coffee trays, stood beside Sophia. She's good at this, Sophia said. Miriam nodded. She's better than good. She's teaching what she was taught and what most adults forget. By afternoon, the energy shifted. Laughter mixed with focused silence. A 15-year-old girl rebuilt a broken servo from scrap parts. Succeeded on the third try. High fives rippled. Zara gathered everyone at the end, sat cross-legged on the floor. Kids followed suit, circle around her. One more thing before you go home, she said. My grandpa wrote in his journals, you're not small because you're young, you're focused. Big difference. Don't let anyone tell you different, not teachers, not kids at school. Not even yourselves on bad days. When something feels locked, listen. The truth is already there, waiting. Amara raised her hand. What if people don't believe us, like when you tried and they laughed? Zara looked at her, straight. Then keep listening anyway. The metal doesn't care who's watching, it just tells what's real. The room held that for a moment, quiet power. As kids packed up, Miriam approached Zara. You did well today. Zara shrugged, old habit. I just repeated what he said. Miriam placed a hand on her shoulder. You did more, you made it live again. Outside, late afternoon sun broke through clouds. Golden light slanted across the parking lot. Fairy horns carried on the breeze, distant, steady. Sophia waited by the door. Jamal beside her, swinging his new toolkit bag. Zara walked out last, locked the door. The click felt final and right. 1 year to the day after the vault opened, Zara stood at the edge of Elliott Bay. Theo's ashes had been scattered here long ago. In her palm, the small brass key, freshly cut for the lab's new expansion wing. A quiet room for advanced projects, a space for the older kids to dream bigger. The water lay calm under a rare clear sky. Gulls wheeled overhead. A ferry approached the dock below, horn low and clear, 3 long blasts, then silence. The sound rolled across the waves and settled in her bones. Same horn Theo used to point out when they walked this path together. That's the truth calling, Zara girl, steady, no rush, just arrival. Sophia stood beside her. Jamal on the other side, Miriam a step behind. No one spoke at first, just the 4 of them, family now in every way that mattered, standing in the salt breeze. Jamal broke the quiet. Is today the day you officially open the new room? Zara nodded. Tonight, ribbon cutting, all the kids are coming, some parents too. Sophia squeezed her shoulder. Your grandpa would have loved it, kids with tools in their hands. Questions in their eyes, that's what he lived for. Zara leaned into her mother. I know, I feel him every time I teach. Every time a kid hears the first click and their face lights up, it's like he's right there, smiling that half smile. The one that said, you got it, baby girl. Miriam stepped closer, placed a small envelope in Zara's free hand. From the trust lawyers this morning, the first royalty check cleared. Theo's name is on every relevant patent now. Permanently, the share is modest by corporate standards, but it's enough. The lab will never close, and your college, yours and Jamal's, is covered. No debt, no nights wondering. Zara opened the envelope, looked at the figures. Numbers that once would have felt impossible, now they felt like quiet justice. She folded it carefully, slipped it into her pocket. Thank you, all of you. Miriam shook her head. You opened the door. I just walked through it with paperwork. The ferry docked with a gentle thud. Passengers began to disembark. Zara watched them, ordinary people carrying ordinary days. She thought of the atrium that rainy Saturday, the laughter, the mockery. The timer ticking down, the moment the dial finally gave. She had been so small then, so scared. But she had listened anyway. Now she turned to her family, to Miriam, to the city behind them, towers gleaming, water restless. I used to think winning meant proving something to everyone who laughed, Zara said, quiet. But it doesn't. It means proving something to the one person who believed in you before you believed in yourself. She looked at the key again. Then out at the bay, Grandpa, I kept my promise and I'm still keeping it every day. A single tear slipped free. She let it fall, didn't hide it. Sophia pulled her closer. Jamal wrapped his arms around both of them. Miriam stood beside them, part of the circle now, not outside it. The sun dipped lower, painted the water copper and rose. The ferry horn sounded again, departure call this time, clear, steady. Gone, Zara took a breath, deep, full. Then she turned, slipped the key into her pocket, looked at her mother, at her brother, at Miriam. "Let's go open the new room, the kids are waiting." They walked back together, four shadows stretching long on the sidewalk, no rush, no fanfare. Just forward, behind them the bay kept moving. Waves lapping, gulls calling, echoes carrying on the wind. Some truths don't shout, they whisper. And if you listen long enough, they change everything. The end if this story of a little girl's whisper toppling an empire moved you. If Zara's quiet strength against cruelty, the sting of racial injustice turned to triumph. Or the way truth echoed through generations hit your heart. Hit that like button right now. It tells the algorithm and me that stories like this matter. Subscribe to Millionaire CEO stories if you want more viral underdog epics, heart-pounding hooks, social justice punches, and hope that sticks. New drops weekly. Share this with someone underestimated, someone fighting quiet battles. One share reminds them, you're not dirty or small, you're focused, brilliant, unbreakable. Rewatch the CEO's face at minute 2, arrogance shattering like glass. Comment below, when did you prove the doubters wrong? Who taught you to trust the quiet truths? Your voice matters. Let's build a chorus. Keep listening. The whisper changes everything.